Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming to my presentation, SCUBA Gear and You. Are you ready to roll in? We're going to go over some introductions, a brief history of scuba, equipment assembly, the completely equipped diver, which I think is necessary, pre-dive safety check, and then I'll demonstrate all these skills, and then I'll have you practice these skills for me. Classroom expectations. If you have cell phones, please either turn them off or silence them. Either one's fine with me. Please participate and please ask any questions that may come up at any time. Also, if you need the restrooms, they're right around the corner. A little bit about myself. My name is Craig White. I was a PADI certified diver in 2010, and I became a dive master in 2012, and I've been here at the shop since then. I am also currently a student at UNT, and this is my LTEC Technical Presentation Skills class, and this is my final assignment, so thank you for your help. Now, if I could have everybody give me your name, when were you certified, where's your favorite dive location, and give me one piece of gear that you've left on the boat. Now, I'll go ahead and start that off because I wanted to go with you guys on this one. I left my fins. I got so excited, and nobody was paying attention, and I just went in. It's really hard to get anywhere without fins. So, we go ahead and start.
My name's Matt. I was certified in 2009. My favorite dive location is Cozumel, and I've left the camera on the boat, so I didn't get to take any pictures underwater.
Ah, okay. Next.
Laura, and I was certified in 2010. My favorite dive site is probably the Belize trip.
Love Belize.
And one piece of gear left on the boat was my weight belt and pouch. I floated.
It's kind of hard to go down without that weight.
My name's Lee. I got certified back in the 80s. My favorite dive location would probably be in the South Pacific, Truck Lagoon, with a bunch of World War II wrecks. Mm-hmm. The one piece of gear left on the boat, I didn't really leave the gear on the boat, but I was in my dry suit, and I forgot to get the dry suit zipped up. As I leapt into the water, it was no longer a dry suit anymore. It was very wet.
So it defeats the purpose of that one.
It definitely did.
And see, things like that, all that would have been caught if everybody had done their pre-dive safety check.
Absolutely.
I've made a few slides, real brief history on diving equipment. Really, the 1700s saw the birth of the wetsuit. Back then, though, it was all leather and had that big clunky helmet on it. The picture to the left is more modern design that is still in use to some degree with the industry. And it was really fueled by the Navy. They wanted it to salvage sunken ships, cannons, and such. 1800s, we saw our first rebreathers. They were originally made for firemen. Smoky, going into smoke so they don't have to breathe it. It was a closed system with scrubbers in it that would clean the air, and it was repurposed to go diving with. Really, what we do today, the recreational diving, started in the 30s and the 40s. Several different designs on trying to get a good, breathing system. Then Jacques Cousteau came along. In 1943, he invented the aqualung, which is the first open circulator that's a demand circulation. And it's really the basis of what we dive today. I mean, we've had a lot of modern conveniences added to it, and it's been improved. But in essence, it's the same rig. Moving on, we are going to do our assembly equipment. I know all of you guys are certified. You've done this probably 100 times, but I always find that it's good to go over it so that you don't forget anything. It's easy to get rusty in your skills when you don't dive very often. First thing you do, you're going to grab your tank, and you want to check its Viz rating and its hydro rating and make sure they're within date. Every year on the Viz, 5 on the hydro. And then you're going to attach it to your BCD. Then you're going to take your first stage and you're going to connect that to the tank. The next thing I would do is turn the air on. Look at your gauge. How much air do you have? Do you have a full tank? If this is your second dive, do you have enough air to do that second dive? Really, you want to stop and listen at this point because you're checking your air in all kinds of aspects. You want to listen. Is it leaking? Is it hissing? You could have a hole in your your hoses, or you could just not have it tight enough, or you could have a bad O-ring. That's another thing you want to check on the tank is the O-ring, make sure it's not trashed. And finally, taste it. It shouldn't taste like anything. If it does, it's a bad tank. Turn it back, get you a new one. Don't ever dive a tank that you can taste. Finally, in the last piece, you want to make sure that everything is attached to your VCD. All these hoses and everything, there should be clips located on there, and everything should be snug and ready to go. I built this slide because I thought it was important to show you what I feel is important to have to go into the water. Not everybody may feel this way, but I think it's valuable. Mass snorkel fins. You know, can't see without this, can't go anywhere without this, let me tell you, it's hard. Even using your hands, man, that sucks. Exposure protection. Not everybody wears it. I prefer it because I don't want anything touching me. You know, things sting, things bite. And you could have anything from a shorty to a full suit, whatever your preference is. Your weight system. Some people still use belts. Most all of our gear and all the gear we'll be playing with today is weight integrated. You know, the weight pockets. And then you want your fully assembled SCUBA system, which we just went through how to put that all together. Your cylinder, your VCD, and all of the first, second stage of your instruments. I feel it's always valuable to have a knife, just in case. Honestly, most I ever use it for is cut fishing line, I find, but I've never had to use it for anything else. Your dive tables or your dive planning device is very important. I roll your dive computer up into this category. Some people still use tables. I prefer the dive computer. And last, a logbook and some slates. I like to log all my dives, even though I'm up to 150 plus dives at this point. And slates are always good if you need to quickly communicate with your dive buddy. And we're going to move on to the pre-dive safety check. Got some nice little handy little handouts for you that you can take with you. Keep them in your dive bag. Always remember how the safety check runs. It's your VCD, your weights, your releases, your air, and a final okay. And those are all the steps of a pre-dive safety check. One way we try to remember this is the phrase, begin with review and friends. You can come up with any kind of phrase that you want, and several people have. Big white rabbits are fuzzy. Kids love this one. I find it fun too. My favorite though, this next one here. Blonde women really are fun. I love it. Alright, start out with your VCD. That's the very first thing you're going to check. You're checking the adjustments on it. Make sure everything's snug and fits well. And make sure it works. Inflate it, deflate it. Make sure, if you do that, you know your inflator's connected. And make sure the cylinder's still snug and in place, because at this point you're standing up and it could have slipped. Check your buddy's weights. Is he properly weighted? Does he have both weight pouches? If he's wearing a weight belt, make sure it's a right hand release per industry standard. And I think that's everything on weight belts. Releases. Know where they're at in case of an emergency and you have to get your buddy out of your VCD or out of their VCD. Know where all the releases are. I know we don't all dive the same equipment, so that might be something you're not familiar with. It's very important. And also, make sure they're secure. And most of the time, the one that will not be secure will be the cam strap on your tank. Check their air. Make sure they have enough. Well, we covered that before. Make sure the valve's all the way open, turned all the way back. Make sure the regulator and alternative works. And also make note of where that alternative air source is. Because in case of emergency, that's your air source. And you want to know exactly where they have it stored. And then your final okay. Any out of place gear, dangling gauges, any missing gear, weight pouch, zipper undone, you know, fins, camera, all the little incidentals. You want to make sure if the dive doesn't shoot their dive computer, you want to make sure they have that too. And that's your last step of the pre-dive safety check. What we're going to do now is we're going to go, I'm going to demonstrate these skills, and then I'm going to have you practice these skills for me. And as you can see, you know, don't be this guy right here. Make sure you know where your equipment is, and make sure it fits. Any questions?
I've got one.
Yeah.
I saw that you now have to open the air all the way.
Uh-huh.
We used to not have to. Why the change?
It's standardized across the industry. You know, some the tech divers were teaching it all the way on, and you know, Patty back. You want everything. It's either all the way on or all the way off, and it cuts down on accidents by doing that.
Cool. Makes sense. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Let's move on to the demonstration of how to put this stuff actually together. Let's put some gear together. First thing we're going to do, we're going to take our tank. And we're going to inspect it. Normally you won't assemble the stuff on a table, but in class you always assemble on a table so everybody can see. First thing, check your visual inspection. These should be current within 1 year. So we're looking 2015 and April.
So just done.
Yep, just done. This is a good tank, visually. So now you want to make sure and you want to check the hydrostatic test. It's always engraved up here on the neck somewhere, and you're going to look for the most recent one right here. So this one was done in March of 2014, so it's only a year out at this point. You see it right there?
Yeah, I see it. Okay.
Okay. That's really important. Another thing, you can go ahead and check. Take this cover off here. There's an O-ring in here. This is probably one of the most important pieces on this, because without this O-ring, you cannot get a good seal.
Okay.
Your air will just start hissing out of there.
Okay.
You want to check and make sure it's not flat. You want to make sure it's nice and round and it's in there. They make a clear one, so poke it, because that clear one's hard to see. But you can feel it. You can feel it with your finger. It's in there. So everything on this tank's good. I'm going to use this tank. Now we take our BCD, and we talked about the cam strap on the back. They're all a little different. You know, this one is a pretty simple one. The BCD iDive actually has a hook, so mine comes apart. I'm going to go ahead and turn this around so you guys can see what I'm doing. Just slide this over the neck and down. Everybody has their own preference on height. You know, a rule of thumb could be your hand width. That's good. Some people use that. Some people will, you know, judge. You know, is the top of my BCD even with the top of the neck there? That's kind of, I kind of eyeball it. It looks good. You can always be adjusted above or underwater. That's what a good buddy's for. I'm gonna cam this tight, and I like to make sure the Velcro's there so it doesn't pop out.
And you have the side with the O-ring facing the BCD.
Yes, you always
Okay.
want to make sure that is pointing towards the back of your head.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're not getting any air. Alright. So let's grab the first stage. Everybody remember, it's your first stage. First stage, primary. Second stage, your alternative for emergencies. This will always be a bright color, usually yellow. You know, we would prefer that it be yellow. Some people get cute and do orange or something stupid, but yellow. Turn this around. No real easy way to see this one, but go ahead and take this dust cover off. It just hangs right there. And always remember, your second stages go over your right shoulder. You think about it, you rest it on your neck. Sometimes I'll do that when I'm carrying it around, just also so I remember, hey, this is on my right side, I'm good to go. seat this in, it fits right up against there. This is a yoke attachment. It slides over the top. We're going to screw that down. It doesn't have to be super tight, you know, 2 fingers. It's tight enough. The residual pressure from the tank is really good at holding this on as long as there is the O-ring there and it's snug. So at this point, turn this around. Thank you. We take our hose and feed it in here. Some people take this outside of the strap. I do. Some people leave it inside the strap. And open up the Schrader valve. Just slip it back. And slide that on right there. So all of my hoses are attached at this point. I want to turn my air on. Now when we do that, there it is. Switching it around. When you turn this on, don't be staring at your gauges. They're not known to fail, but that is glass, and if that fails, you don't want a face full of glass. Recommendations, point it to the ground, point it to the side of the tank. This tank can take that quite easily. So you can see, I like pointing mine to the tank. I'm just going to barely open this. We're going to stop and listen.
I don't hear anything.
No, that's a good sign. If you don't hear anything, you have a good seat and a good connection. So at this point, we turn it all the way on. All the way. It's either all the way on or all the way off. And it'll stop. Check your air. How much do you have? 3,000. 3,000 is a really good fill on a tank. Personal preference, if I get anything under 2,700, I return the tank and get one that's above 2,700.
Okay.
I like to get as much air as I can. So at this point we're fully assembled. So we're going to go ahead and just connect off these pieces here. Secure them so they're out of the way. Get these little clips here. Clips come in a lot of different varieties. I prefer this little clip here. It seems to hold the hoses really well.
You're just pressing that in there?
Just press it right in here. And on when you have 2 connections here, like on this one, with your alternate, I prefer the one that's down because that way, if your buddy needs it, they can just yank down and it comes right off. It's harder to yank it to the side. But you know, you come to that situation, they'll get it off or they'll grab yours out of your mouth. So the easier they can get to that, the better. And then this piece just hangs out right there.
So you don't connect that piece, oh, because that'll be in your mouth.
Right, yeah, if you connect that, you're not going to go anywhere.
Okay.
And the first time you move, it'll either come out of your mouth or come out of the connection. Any questions?
No. Where do you put the weights?
I wasn't going to put some weights into this one, but that's a good thing to show. Every BCD is a little different in the weight systems.
Yes, they've got pull-out pockets. This
Right.
one doesn't seem to have it.
It doesn't. They're built in. They have a built-in pouch right here. First of all, you want to make sure that it's closed.
Okay.
Because if you put it in when it's not closed, it'll slide right out.
But you don't have the weights in yet.
No.
It's
Weights
zippered
come on the top. You got a zipper on the top.
Okay.
Nice little gravity feed. You're going to take your weight, just slide it in. Zipper it shut. We'll come over here on this side. You always want to equal out your weight too.
Okay.
Same amount on each side, otherwise you're going to wind up swimming sideways. And then open it up,
Okay.
slide it in.
So then to release, you just unclip and pull down, and the weights would just fall out.
Yes.
Okay.
This one. You know, whereas with the pouches, you would just grab and pull them straight forward, and they would
It's
come out
nice,
that
nothing to
way.
lose.
Yeah,
Nothing
exactly.
to forget.
Nothing to
Well, I
forget.
guess except the weights.
Except the weights.
Now, I know I didn't mention taking it apart, but I think that there's some things that I should mention in taking this apart that will
Okay.
make it a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and disassemble my gear at this point and show you how I would do that. So you come up, you're all wet, and the first thing you do is slide this off. And when you're done at the end of the day, I always start by just disconnecting the hoses. It's almost kind of like a reverse process. Get things loose and out of the way. And the next thing you want to do, make sure your air is turned off. You probably have a good 500 pounds in there. You're done with this tank, you know, it's what you're supposed to come up with. Make sure that's all the way off. Now at this point, if you were to try, this is not going to come off very easily, and if you do, you're probably going to blow that O-ring into the next county. The easiest thing to do at this point is to bleed the air, and I always just take my second stage. Now if you're holding this down and it's just screaming air at you, you don't have this all the way off.
Okay.
You see all the air's gone, the hoses have gone slack, and at this point, it comes right off. 2 fingers, that's all it takes. Come over here to your Schrader valve, slide that off. Now important, this little dust cap needs to go back on. Now there might be some water in it. Please don't use your tank to get that water out. All it takes, that's it. Rub it on your towel, shake it. Just don't blow your air into that. You'll blow water everywhere, and it gets into your first stage, and your scuba dealer just loves you because they have to rebuild everything for you. So very important, before you set this down, make sure that cover's on there. Just do a quick wrap, hoses. And it's ready to be stored. And rinsed and then stored. Make sure your weights are out of your pouches before you take this off your tank, because it adds a lot of weight to your BCD and you're probably not ready for it. So you really get these out anyway. If you want to fish your hand down there, open it up, you can. On this one, I just kind of open up the bottom. I'm prepared for it. It slides right out. Just set it aside. A good idea is to go ahead and reclose that and clasp it back. And we kind of do a rinse and repeat here. We got the clasp. Open it up. I usually keep them together so that I don't forget my weights. Close it up. Now, it's light enough and it's not going to hurt you. Come back to the cam, open that up, and you see it slid right there. If those weights have been in there, it slid a lot faster and quite possibly on your toe, pull the tank over. So it's really a good idea to take your weight system out as soon as you take it off. Slide that back up, and now your BCD is ready to be rinsed or put on a new tank if you're going in again.
Okay.
Now I know whenever you got your tank, it had this little cover on this right here. Don't put it back. If the cover's on one of these, to us this means that this is a full tank. When the cover's off, dive masters or anybody else running the air compressor, we know we need to fill it. So go ahead and just leave that off and follow whatever dive directions you've been given. Leave your tank there. They may fill them right there on the site. Or if you're you know, off on a site somewhere, you know, put it somewhere out of the sun, and be sure to get it filled when you get your next chance. Any other questions? I know that was.
I have one question. You mentioned before storing your gear, rinse it. Do you recommend any like soap and water or chemicals or anything?
No, fresh water.
Just fresh water.
Just fresh water.
Okay.
They do make a BCD solution that you can use that helps lubricate everything and keep everything in good shape.
Okay.
But for the most part, just a good quick rinse. If you can, get you some water inside of the air bladder here.
Okay.
Rinse it around and then dump it back out.
Okay.
That'll help you keep salt crystals from forming on the inside and
Okay.
tearing everything up.
Great.
Anything else?
No, ready to do it.
All right. Let's go ahead and grab the gear and put it together.
Excellent.
All right, we had a quick camera reset so we can see everybody putting this gear together. Go ahead and start with your tanks. Yep. Make sure the visual's good. Make sure the hydro's within date. We go ahead and be sure to check the O-ring.
Craig, does it matter if we use this strap?
Not really. Some people prefer it. I use it off and on. It's really user preference.
Okay.
Some people actually shorten it to the point where it will always hang their BC exactly where they want it.
Okay.
You're missing a cam there. All right.
These come over the right side. So right shoulder.
Right shoulder.
Okay. No, sir. How tight did you say to make that?
2 fingers. You really don't want to wrench down on it. It doesn't take much. The residual pressure of the tank will actually hold it on very well.
Okay.
You okay, Matt?
I think so.
Okay.
Making sure we're not tangled up yet.
Matter which one of these I go on?
Not really. Not on that side. Yet again, user preference. I like to stick it in sideways like that too because it's harder to fall out. That one's clean.
3,000?
Alright.
Here.
Yep. Gosh, go ahead and put it on this. So it doesn't slide.
Yeah, it didn't stay on there, does it?
Ah, this is one of the new hoses. They're smaller than these
Smaller
clamps.
hoses,
They're
okay.
smaller than these clamps.
Alright, you should check the air.
Yep. How's it taste?
Tastes like air.
There you go. Perfect.
Doesn't taste like any food I've ever had.
3,000.
So that's good?
Yep. Everything's good.
Alright, I should be
It
good
is
to go.
attached. Perfect.
Slow person.
That's okay.
Alright, there's nothing to hook it on. We're good?
Nope. This one is missing a clip. That's alright.
There it is. It's
I saw it
hidden.
folded under.
It's hidden.
Clip is in the wrong spot.
That's
It's
all
in a
right.
different spot. Not the
Different
wrong
spot.
spot. Just a
Not
different
wrong,
spot.
just different. We're fixed.
Okay. Did you taste your air?
I did taste my ale.
Okay, we're good. All right, good job, everybody. Everything looks great. So let's move on to the pre-dive safety check.
Okay.
What I want to do is I need one volunteer to stand with this on while I go through it, okay? Because the other two are going to go through it and do it for each other.
Okay.
Nice little role play.
So you want to put the gear on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything to your satisfaction?
I think so.
Are you ready to get in the water?
I think so.
All right. Let's back up here just a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to come over here. You can stand right there. Okay. Remember, first thing on the list, nice little handy dandy chart if you guys want to grab it and follow along. BCD.
There you go.
We're going to check and make sure that it works. Tear it up. Let it out. Everything looks good with that. Weights. We want to check the weight system. Now, I didn't have you guys put weights in.
Thank you.
It's just heavy. But you know, the weights are on these jackets are on the side. You can see where the releases are for them, and you can check to make sure they're in there. Don't open them and drop them on his feet.
Why need help getting that reconnected?
Move on to the releases. There's your weight release there. You got one on this side. You got a release here, one there. You got one here on the cummerbund, and really the cummerbund itself is a release too. It's just Velcro. It's not a strap. If you turn around, a lot of people miss this one. This is your cam strap. This is another one of your releases. And so you're going to check and make sure it's still snug. Then we're going to check our buddy's air. Let's see how much air do they have. Got full? All right. 3,000. Everything is on. Good job. Now, and make sure everything works. And you want to make sure where that alternative is. It should be there in the little triangle in the rib cage. And make sure you guys remember that from your open water training. That's your life source if you need it. The final okay. I know, yet again, I didn't have you guys put on mask, snorkel, and all that stuff, but that's what you're going to look for. Does he have his mask? Does he have his fins? His dive computer on?
Is my dry suit zipped?
Is your dry suit zipped? Do you have a camera? Are you using a camera? Everything looks good at that point. You give them the okay, and then you repeat the process. They check you out. Do you have any questions?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Let's get you out of that gear.
Okay.
So here. All right, water map. Let's do a little bit of a role play for you. You guys are buddies. You're at your favorite dive spot. Let me know if you need help getting it on. You are about ready to roll into the water. I want you guys to perform the pre-dive safety check for each other. Consider this your final exam. And you get to learn this as soon as my test dummy. You good?
I'm
good?
good. I'm good.
All right, whichever one of you guys want to start,
I'll go.
I'm going to.
All right.
Yeah, step right over here.
Check the BC. That
Gear
is
is
human
clean.
value.
That
It
is
is
clean water.
Clean. Clean. It is all strapped. Your cummerbund is on. Alright,
weights,
so
we
it's
did
your
weights on
weight.
Yep.
Weights, those are good. Those are good. They're there. Releases.
How many does he have?
He's got 2 here. 1 here. Weights, both sides. Front pouch here, cummerbund, and his cam. Cam
Perfect.
strap.
Alright,
So
and
we're
we will
good
check air.
Air check it, sounds good. Looks like you're, and it's in the triangle. And, okay, you've got your mask, weights, air looks good here, you've got 3,000.
Yeah, don't forget to
So
check
we're
your
good.
air.
You,
And
ABC.
you missed one thing. You didn't check to make sure his air was turned on.
You're right, air, I did not, it is on.
All the way on.
It is all the way on, there's no
Perfect.
turn.
Okay. Now, final okay.
Final okay.
That's fine, okay.
Okay.
Okay, we have DC.
Slide around over here on this side.
You can spit out here.
Good.
Air. Releases. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then back. Okay, your air is on.
Okay.
And your weights.
That was a good catch.
That's a good catch.
Alright, you got that one?
That one.
No, that one's
That
loose
one-
too.
that one's
See?
loose too. See?
Your weights would have been on the floor.
Again.
Alright. Mask and snorkel.
Yes.
Everything that you need. Did you check your air? Make sure it works. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Good job.
We're good to dive.
You are good to dive.
Cool.
Alright. Let's get you guys out of this gear and we will sit down and go through some final thoughts.
Thank you.
Alright. So, final thoughts. Does anybody have any final questions? Anything you thought of while we're putting the gear together and was hesitant to ask?
No, it was nice to see how many different clips there were to kind of figure out that, you know, even on gear that was the same, it had different connection points for the gear, so it's good to see different ones.
Right, yeah, and that's the reason I always say you need to know where those releases are at because everybody's gear is a little different.
It was a good reminder for the cam because I always forget the cam in the back.
And check the
And
air.
the
And
weight
the
line.
weights.
air.
And the weight
And the
line.
weights.
I know.
It's been a while, huh?
A little bit.
So yeah, just remember how important this really is because one thing we don't want to happen to you is something to go wrong when you're under the water. And this little safety check here is really one of the best steps to make sure that at least all your gear is properly functioning and you didn't miss anything or, you know, your buddy might even catch something that's about to break and you didn't realize it when you were putting it together. I can't think of anything else. If you don't have any more questions, well, congratulations. That's the end of my presentation. I have some nice, little fancy certificates for you. Feel free to frame them, show them to your family, put them on the wall. Matt,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Appreciate it. Lee,
Thank you.
don't forget that zipper.
I won't.
Laura, don't forget everything else. Even those weight pouches. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm ready to go
Thank
diving.
you.
You're in
Let's
there
go.
diving?